let's go ahead and get started. Thank you all for joining our September education call. We like to at least have one education call focused on nutrition throughout the year. And we wanted to try to broaden that call to include something that's a bit more maybe less focused on the restrictions that I think we've all heard of over and over again, but how to fit that diet into a budget and a limited budget. I know I recently went grocery shopping, and looking at some prices is always overwhelming. So I'm very excited and very thankful to have Jenny Smith on the call, who is a dietitian from Northwest Kidney Centers. She's our main presenter today, and hopefully you were able to take a look at some of the handouts that Northwest Kidney Centers has put together on the topics that I've sent out before the call. If not, I'll send them out with the recording as well. And Jenny, if you're ready, feel free to take it away.
Great. So I'm Jenny Smith. I'm a registered dietitian. I'm also a certified diabetes educator, and I work at the Northwest Kidney Centers in the Seattle area. I'm in Kent, which is a little bit south of Seattle right now. And it's a beautiful day, and somebody had mentioned they were staying home in the Washington, D.C. area because of the hubbub around the Pope being in Washington. Well, we have the president of China here, and so like all the highways have been, shut down and re-diverted, and so we're glad to have him here, but we're very happy that he's leaving today so we can get our horrible traffic back to just horrible rather than just impossible altogether. Like, for example, at our dialysis center, we had a couple of people who their transport didn't come till 2 hours later because they were stuck in traffic on I-5. So anyway, enough of my problems. So our topic today is something that I absolutely love talking about. First of all, I just love talking about grocery shopping because that's like my go-to fun thing because I'm a nerdy dietitian and like that sort of thing. But also, I have a great many patients who have very limited budgets. As you know, dialysis is not a high-paying profession to be on dialysis, so a lot of times people find themselves in a totally different situation than they used to be in. Like maybe they never really thought about grocery shopping, and now they're also trying to find specific products that are low salt or low phosphorus or limiting potassium, and having different fruits and veggies. It's just overwhelming. So hopefully we can give you some clues on some things to do. So as mentioned before, Northwest Kidney, we're a really big dialysis center in the Seattle area, and we have lots of different cultures, and so that always makes it extra challenging too to find materials in different languages, but it's really fun from a dietitian's perspective because I am looking at how different people across the globe kind of deal with limited food budgets. So that's really very helpful, and we can get a lot of clues for what we can do from that. So one of the things that's on the email that she'll send out is I think it's like 6 or 7 pages that Northwest Kidney Center has put together, sort of a grocery store tour on pieces of paper. There's a canned goods handout, baking and spices, low-salt Asian foods, baked goods, dairy selection, candies and snack aisles. So when you go to these different aisles, it gives you some really good specific things to look for that would be renal friendly and also low budget as well. Okay, so let me get started on the regular presentation. And oh my gosh, we're up to 47 people. This is fabulous. In the spring, I did a presentation, and they said, oh, it's just going to be a few people. It was 400 by the time we got there, so my friend and I were just totally freaked out. We're teaming on this. So since it's online, so I was just thinking, imagine Angelina Jolie. That's the person that I am on this line as you're looking, so that's close enough to what I look like. So, all righty, so dialysis diet on a budget. Let me get my little mouse here. All right, so the very first thing that you need to think about is what are your goals? And we do encourage you to think about some things that you've already been told before, but the basics are the basics for a reason. So the very basics of really staying within your budget is planning. You're saving money. Even if you don't want to do it, pretend that you're paying yourself by the money that you're going to save by doing the budget planning. So saving morning money is important for everybody. You know, even if your food budget's not super tight, being more efficient is just being a good steward for the environment. There was a recent government report that said that people throw out 25% of their food purchase. That was kind of shocking. They were saying it was sort of like going to the grocery store and buying 4 bags of groceries and then just leaving one in the parking lot. So I was thinking, you know, I might need to look at that a little bit myself. So that's, you know, saving money is also good for the environment. So it'll give you a little bit extra push to do this if you're environmentally aligned, as everyone in Seattle is. That's just another thing that'll do. Consider that the time spent planning is also keeping you from not only overspending at the grocery store, but maybe overeating as well. And you maybe need to, during this planning time, just step back a little bit and get a little philosophical about what exactly are your goals in eating. You know, are you trying to lose weight? Are you trying to spend less money? Are you trying to maybe make a big change altogether and eat more fruits and vegetables? Or are you maybe trying to increase your protein? You know, try to keep some of those goals in mind. And then when you come up with your plan, then the next thing is figure out what your money budget is. A lot of times people complain that, you know, the fruits and vegetables are so expensive, but, you know, really they should be about half of your food budget. I think we kind of want half of our food budget to be M&Ms and little snack cakes, and I think sometimes that can be, but the healthy food is expensive, and it's just really, I've lost things. Oh, there we go. Healthy food is really expensive, and I just want to make sure that you're planning and going in the direction that you want to go in. All right. So another thing to do is just to check your calendar, because it's a very good idea to write out a menu of what you're going to do. And I know you've heard this from dietitians forever, but let me just give you a few incidences that I've run across that I just think are fabulous support for writing out a menu. I had a dietitian friend a few years ago, and she said that she made out a 17-day cycle menu for her family. So she had 17 days where she had breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And so that's just a touch over 2 weeks. And so she always had, you know, these same meals, like during a day. And she had made them so much that she, in her mind, had all the recipes memorized. She had all of her family's favorites in there. And she said they never noticed that every 17 days they had the same menus over and over and over again. And so I thought, that's just fabulous, you know, because you're always thinking, I have to have a month's worth of menus. Really, I think 17 days is kind of on the high side. It needs to be more than 7, because you don't want to fall into the every Monday we have meatloaf. But if you have a kind of an odd number, like a 9 or an 11 or a 15, where you sit down and really come up with the things you love to eat, then you could fit these foods into, you know, a cycle. And then you could also coordinate all the ads that you find, all the coupons that you have, because you know, okay, this is going to come up next week. I'll save this and use this coupon next week. Or, there's a special on turkeys this week. Well, I have that coming up in my cycle, so maybe I'll get a second one and put it in the freezer. So some things like that are very important. You end up eating the things you love. People end up thinking you're a genius because you just are cooking all these wonderful foods off the top of your head, and you end up saving a lot of money. She said even when they go on vacation, she knew exactly which pans to take, which staples to take, and she said they would go on vacation. They had a big family, and they would, stay at a cottage or something, and they ate all their meals at home, saved all that money for the big family that she had, and they thought it was just fabulous, and they loved her food better than the things that they could eat out. So that's just something to think about. Let's see. Okay, so also when you're doing your planning, so we're looking at what's going on in your life. You know, do you have maybe a potluck coming up that you don't have to plan a meal for? A lot of folks with their religious organizations, there's a meal that maybe goes with whatever religious ceremony they have that for that week. Let's see. Another thing is look for specials like if you're a senior. 55 is now considered a senior in many places, which may for some people seem like a long way away, but hey, it's like, oh, I could have done this for a few years for me now. And then also look for big things. Katie mentions in the slides you put together the Chinook coupon book. That's a Seattle type thing, but I've lived in other areas of the country, and there's always these little, retail coupon books that you can get. Like another thing is there's a big store here called Grocery Outlet, and I get a little flyer in the mail that for every so much I spend, I get $4 or $5 off. And so let me tell you, I'm grabbing all my neighbors' flyers that don't use Grocery Outlet, and I'm using those whenever I can. And do know when you look at coupons that often the brand name the brand name coupons are not always the best deal, but it's just something, sometimes you can get a really good deal on those from time to time. Then the next thing you want to do is, here I'm going to back up just a little bit. When I was talking about planning menus, if you want to plan a menu, just keep in mind most people eat the same 2 or 3 breakfasts over and over again. They maybe eat the same 2 or 3 lunches over and over again, and maybe 4 to 7 dinners. So if you're going to plan some sort of cycle menu, it doesn't have to be huge. And that's really enough variety for us. So I thought I'd just mention that. And you might also want to plan snacks into your cycle menu, like adding more fruit, planning fruit snacks in so that you make sure that you eat them. Okay, well, so then the next step is once you've got your plan, you know what you think you want to do, check out your refrigerator. As I get older, I used to be able to go to the grocery store to remember everything that we were out of, and now we have a list, and if it's not on the list, I don't get it. So one of those refrigerator list things that you can stick on your refrigerator is always a good idea, so as soon as you run out, someone can jot it down for you. I always look through my refrigerator and see what I've got, what I could incorporate into something I think I want to have. It's a good time to check out on the strange moldy gray things in the back that have started growing in your refrigerator. Look at your staples, look at your herbs and spices, look under the sink, make sure you've got what your grocery, like laundry detergent and all that sort of thing. Some people, if you have a cycle menu, can even make up a pre-printed reminder list where you just have everything that you usually have, and this is what my friend had. She had a Xerox page that was on the refrigerator, and as she ran out of things, she would just circle that. So she just took the same list to the grocery store over and over again. She didn't have to make out a list. It was just highlighted with the things she needed. So it was pretty slick. I was really quite impressed with her. And also, you might find, looking through your refrigerator, and also look through your freezer, you might not need to shop as much as you needed to. And a couple of times a year, try to eat down your pantry. Try to just go through and get creative with all those odd little things that you bought during the year, and use up everything in your freezer, use up everything in your refrigerator, so you can kind of start fresh from scratch and you don't have so many old food items hanging around. Okay, cooking from scratch. So this is something, if you aren't a cook already, it's a good way to start is just a master mix. So a master mix is like Bisquick, and Bisquick is full of phosphorus, so we're trying to stay away from that. So we have at Northwest Kidney a master mix recipe that includes low sodium and low phosphorus baking powders and other items like that. But really just making a mix yourself, even if you use regular baking soda or regular baking powder, is going to be lower than the Bisquick because we're not putting in phosphorus powder to keep it from caking. We're storing it in the refrigerator so it stays fresh. But you can often make some mixes from things that you buy as convenience items that you can come up with pancakes and muffins and cookies and breads and all kinds of things like that. I also encourage folks to make their own spice mixes. So instead of buying those little packages of taco seasoning and things like that, it's pretty easy to come up with those on your own. And once again, there's recipes on the internet just forever. And you also can save a lot on the sodium and save on the packaging if that's something that you're looking for. Another thing that's suggested is to buy staples so that you can have 3 meals that you can make anytime. So here's some suggestions and some things that you can keep on hand. Recipes on the Northwest Kidney website under recipes so that you can put together, like this fast fettuccine is a low phosphorus spaghetti. It's cream cheese, garlic, parsley, pasta, leftover veggies or meat. It's so simple. You can teach your kids to make it. You can make homemade pizza. You can make your own crust. There's just all kinds of things you can do. But it's nice to have these sorts of things kind of on your master menu so that you can always have a meal on hand, even if it's not planned in there. Okay, so some of the rules of shopping, things you already know. Make a list. Don't go hungry. And consider, instead of shopping every week, shopping every 2 weeks. The more often you go, the more often you're going to spend money. And of course, everyone knows store brands are cheaper. And we do want you to read labels, but don't think you have to go and understand every label. There's tens of thousands of items in a grocery store. So just pick one thing. Like maybe when you go to the grocery store, just take a few minutes, stand at the cheese aisle, or stand at the canned soup aisle, or stand at the snack cracker aisle, and consider which items would be best for you. So what are we looking for on a label? There's way too much information, I think, on a label. I'm sure you've heard this before, but I'm just going to run through it real quick. You have to look at the serving size, and you have to look at how many servings per container. So this is a cake item. It says 5 servings per container. This just may be a little roll kind of thing, and you're thinking this is supposed to be 5 servings. I'm probably going to eat half of this. So remember that you have to look at the portion size because all of this nutrition information is based on that portion size. So if you're going to eat the whole thing, this cake item, if you're going to sit and eat the whole thing at once, you have to take all these numbers times 5. And so suddenly that little 100 milligrams of sodium went up to 500 milligrams of sodium, or those 200 calories went up to 2,000. So one of my very favorites is some of the premium brand pot pies. If you'll look at those, you turn them over and you go, oh, wait a minute, you know, that's high in salt, but it wasn't as high as I thought it was. But then if you look up at the label, it might say serving size 1/2 of a pie. So who eats a half of a pot pie? So, you know, these are just some things to look for. So one rule of thumb, if you're looking at sodium in products, super simple, 1-to-1 sodium to calories. So this item is 200 calories per serving and 100 milligrams of sodium. So this has more calories than sodium. Say, for example, a snack cracker that might, or a snack item that might be 200 calories, but it's maybe 300 milligrams of sodium. So that's, you know, for every calorie, it's going to be more milligrams of sodium. So if you look at snacks that way, it's often kind of surprising what you can find that you can eat, that if you eat in the right portion, it's not too much sodium. So once again, that ratio is 1 calorie to 1 milligram sodium. That would be considered a low sodium product. Okay, some cheap proteins. Eggs are one of the best buys in the world, although they have been going up lately. They've been killing, you know, some sort of chicken thing going on, but in general, eggs are a pretty good deal. The dark meats, less expensive than the white meat. Chuck roast, canned tuna, frozen fish, inexpensive fish rather than some of the premium ones. And then using plain whey protein is a way to add lots of protein to your diet without adding lots of calories. Vegetables, frozen are actually such a good deal. They have to take the most perfect things to freeze them so that they'll look perfect when they thaw. So it's really, you know, people think that the frozen vegetables aren't as good as the fresh, but I think frozen are just fine. If you use canned vegetables, they're probably going to have salt in them, so you can rinse them, get some of the salt off. That's still something that's true. You have to, it's more than just like running them under the water once. You have to kind of rinse them for about a minute and let them soak for a minute so that the sodium comes out. And of course, using things in season. So I live in the Pacific Northwest, and I used to live in the Midwest. I've lived in Indiana for quite a bit of my life, and I have family that lives in the South, and so I've been all over. And it's amazing how many wonderful farmers markets we have out here. I know in Indiana, we had one in Indianapolis, and maybe it was on Wednesday. So around here, it's a good idea to check out farmers markets, but sometimes they're a little bit pricey. So that's just something to think about. But I do know that the SNAP program, the food stamp program, often you can go to a farmer's market and show them your card, and you can trade in some of your SNAP dollars for tokens or dollars or whatever they use at that particular farmer's market, and you can actually buy things at the farmer's market with your food stamp money. So I think that's a pretty cool thing. So look for that in your area. I was thinking it might just be in our area, but it seems like it's pretty common. Some other tips are the prepackaged lettuces. They're lovely, but if you just get a regular old head of lettuce and chop it up, it's much less expensive. You can often ask for some things to be cut in half so that if you think you're not going to eat the whole head of cabbage or the whole dozen eggs or the whole squash, grocery stores like to display, their wares so that people will buy them, so they'll often cut something in half for you. And you can ask the butcher to take a bigger piece of meat and cut it into smaller pieces. So if there's something on sale, the butcher in the grocery store can, cut it up and so that you can have it in smaller amounts so that you can cook the rest of it. Oh, and then another thing, I love my Asian fruit and vegetable markets in the Pacific Northwest because they are just dirt cheap. I have one near my house, and I might want to get some basil, and at the grocery store, it's $4 for a little tiny plastic container, and it's like half rotten, and I can go to my Asian grocery store, and it's $1.75, and it's a giant bunch, and I can put it in water, and I've got basil for days and days, weeks and weeks sometimes. It even grew roots. It was so fresh, and I stuck it in the garden. So, and then depending on different things you can get on the internet, there are certain foods that are more seasonal, and then you can kind of look for those and plan your shopping around there. And then buying in bulk. So buying in bulk, I dropped something. Buying in bulk is a fabulous way. It's much less expensive, but you have to be very organized about this. You have to make sure you have containers to put this in once you get home. You date it, you label it so that you know what you have. So if you're very organized, buying in bulk can be just very, very helpful. And then you also, it's more ingredients than it is actual prepared food, so you'll have to make sure that you know what you're going to cook out of it. But for some basic things, it's very nice. And for the spices, it's really inexpensive. So this is what I had mentioned before. These are what the handouts look like. So you can do a little grocery store tour on paper with our NKC handouts. And then there are lots of places you can get food that aren't the grocery stores. So Consumer Reports, and probably you guys all know this too, is that grocery stores are really not the cheapest place to buy things. If you're one of those folks that wants to spend the gas, which is very expensive to run around from grocery store to grocery store, you can hit all the loss leader things, but you have to kind of be smart about where you shop. So Walmart actually, according to Consumer Reports, is one of the lowest prices overall, which I thought that was really interesting, beating competitors' prices on 29 items. Other places that used to not do groceries, like Target, and I've noticed the town that I live in is on a major bus route, and so we have lots of interesting things, and my dollar store that's near my house has just an amazing amount of food in it. And I found that many of my patients shop at dollar stores and Big Lots to get some things. So you have to be kind of careful, use that 1-to-1, 1 calorie to 1 milligram of sodium rule, because often some of these things have long shelf lives and a lot of sodium. But I found some excellent deals. Like, for example, my dollar store has a low salt seasoning blend that I compared to Mrs. Dash Original, and it was just like Mrs. Dash Original, and the Mrs. Dash was $5, and the low salt seasoning blend at my dollar store was $1, and it was a bigger container too. Just one little tip, an excellent dip is some sour cream, like a cup of sour cream and 1 tablespoon of a low salt seasoning, and mix that together, and that's a really nice low salt dip that you can serve with low salt crackers for a snack. So we had a food tasting, and that's what we did. We used the is it Nabisco that has wheat thins and Triscuits and some other cracker that hint of salt, so they were low salt crackers, and then we had the sour cream with Mrs. Dash, or my fake Mrs. Dash from the dollar store. Made a really nice dip that was just a hit, and a lot of people thought, this is great, I can make this, I can take it to an event, maybe vegetables instead of crackers, and I can have a low salt dip that I can enjoy too. So anyway, get off my dietitian bandwagon here. And also Consumer Reports mentioned that Dollar General had better prices than Family Dollar. So. Okay, then thinking some of the things that we've mentioned before, dollar stores, food banks. Look around at your different food banks. They can just be a wealth of not only just food, but resources for you. If you find you need a food bank, don't just go in and get the food, but look at their brochures. Often they do some magnificent training programs for you in trying to find some lower cost things. They may have gotten a big amount of some sort of a commodity, and they may have some really fabulous recipes for that particular commodity. So it's just an excellent learning program. You can also find from time to time things like protein bars at convenience stores that are a pretty good deal. And then some bulk stores, if you have a lot of people to feed, those can sometimes be a good deal. I do know that a lot of my patients and just family members, we have all decided that the big bulk stores end up selling you too much. You know, if you don't have a place to store it, if you live in a small apartment or something like that, you know, make sure if you go that you have space for it and that you're going to use the item up and you're not just buying, you know, giant packages of chips or something like that. You can grow your own. You can actually even grow your own if you've got a space as small as a pot. I told you about I have a basil plant that I grow. I'm a really bad gardener, but I can manage to water and put a basil plant in the sunlight. So I eat lots of basil and things, so that's one of the things. Also, a lot of programs, there are a lot of programs out where people have fruit trees or vegetables and they share them with food banks, or there's even websites that people will let you come to their yard and pick their apples or, you know, pick their pears or whatever they've got available. So be kind of creative and see what you can find. But I know that there's several programs here in the Seattle area. We're kind of different than the rest of the world. We really recycle everything here. Then, if you have a registered dietitian available to you, ask them if they will take you to the grocery store. We have a program here where we often will take folks to a grocery store, and it's just fabulous. It's a good opportunity for us to really get to know our patients better, and then we learn things. You know, often my patients will show me items that they found that I just hadn't been looking in that direction. So that's just a really fun thing to do. Then I mentioned websites before. Spark People has one that I'm going to show you some of the slides for that show you what $20 can buy. In the Seattle area, there's a store called Grocery Outlet, and you can get on their website, and they do a challenge every May with their employees where they have their employees try to eat on $4 a day using the food at Grocery Outlet. So Grocery Outlet is like a discount store. I can't get I have one near my house. My car just automatically goes there. I can't always get everything that I want there, but sometimes I tell myself if Grocery Outlet doesn't have it, I probably should just eat what they've got. So it's a really interesting little handout, and I think it's online that you can print it off. There's also several websites out there for folks that try to navigate you through how to live on a food stamp budget, you know, what to eat. There's some books out called Diabetes for $7 a Day. It's kind of an older book. I have a book that's called Feeding Your Family on $5 a day. There's just a lot of books out like that you can get some good ideas. So what I really like this subject of trying to eat well and eat cheaply. And I talk to people about this all the time. And some of the things that you have to kind of accept if you're going to eat well and eat cheaply are that you may have a limited selection. I've had people tell me, I'm never hungry. but I don't always eat what I want to eat, but I'm always eating something. So that's a little different if your mindset isn't quite there, but it's a very, it's kind of an interesting little, what do I want to say, like a little limit that you can make for yourself, to try and see what you can come up with, that you can come up with things that you like to eat even on this limited budget. And then also make sure that if you're trying to do something like this, or if you're needing to, live on a food stamp budget, you have to save up some of your money for things that you'll use several times, like condiments, spices, oil, sugar, flour, butter. These are some of the places where the bulk, buying in bulk can save you, as long as you have places to put it. Okay. It's hard doing this on the phone. I want feedback. I don't know if you're bored or if you have questions. So let me show you from the Spark People website. This is just a fabulous, you can download these slides if you want to look at these later, and so you have some of this commentary. But here we go. For $20, looks like you can get 4 Cokes, 4 fries, 4 burgers for $21.76. And or you can buy these foods. It looks like there's orange juice, some oatmeal, some beans, some sausage. We've got some vegetarian burgers, potatoes, vegetables, strawberries. And so this is, on the homemade meals, some of the items that you could make out of this $20. And they have other things like this too. So here's another one. You could buy a pizza, or you could buy these things. And then those are the meals that you could make out of it. Like, for example, number 3, make an Asian peanut sauce with peanut butter, blanch the spinach, and serve the fish poached or baked with the peanut sauce over it. Isn't that interesting? Sounds really good. And then for $10, you could buy a case of Bud Light, or you could buy these things, and you could cook these items. Okay, and to save even more money, so some other things, I don't have a slide for this, but just to recommend to be adventurous, look into other food cultures. For example, there are just some amazing, inexpensive ways to eat that are ethnic related. I think Indian food is about, I love Indian food, and it's very simple, very inexpensive. The spices, you get to put your own level of them in. You can buy pre-mixed spices, but they're just the simplest meals to put together. Actually, Native American food is quite interesting. There's a vegetarian diet. You can learn some new ideas and things to do with those grains and beans. I have a couple of patients from the continent of Africa, and they just bring in fabulous ideas of just some really tasty things that you can make, stews and things like that. Mexican, Latin American food. A lot of these foods are based on really, really healthy rice and beans and very limited amounts of meats, which meat is one of the expensive items on your menu. And just recently I had a chance to go to New Orleans, and Creole food, I was looking at that and thought, oh my gosh, these are very simple ingredients and this is fabulous. So a little Southern cooking thrown in there, and of course Asian food has lots of interesting things that you can spread a small amount of tasty foods with some sauces. And then we do have a handout on Asian foods that make them less sodium, less high in sodium. So just kind of in conclusion, try to cut out the food waste, write out a menu, try it for 2 weeks, tweak, and actually do the whole menu for 2 weeks. Eat all the food, even if you don't like it. Write down what you didn't like, tweak it for changes, and see if you can come up with a tasty menu, things that you and your family like, and then once you start eating those things kind of over and over again, you can get the recipes memorized in your head, start tweaking them with the flavors that you like, maybe start incorporating a new vegetarian dish or something over time, and keep your budget down and keep your diet full of things you like and healthy things. And so to save even more money, cook at home, pack a lunch, potlucks. I have many of my patients that live in like a senior housing situation, and they will all pool some things and just have a delicious potluck. with things that they like to eat, and then there's leftovers that people can take home, and it's just a way that they can all kind of share their bounty of things that they have, and then kind of make a meal for everybody, and also keeps your spirits up when you're eating with friends. Before you go out to eat a little bit. So maybe you can just get by with just the atmosphere and a salad or an appetizer or just dessert. And then if you carry something with you all the time, like a protein bar, some string cheese, a piece of fruit, or whatever it is that you like, just 3 little things, maybe a applesauce cup and half of a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, something like that to carry with you all the time, then you always have a snack and you're not tempted to do fast food or something like that. And that is it. So this is our website, northwestkidney.org. We have lots of recipes with beautiful color pictures. We have tip sheets on there, and there is my email. If you want to contact me directly, I can get you any of this stuff. And that is it. Looks like there's lots of stat stuff going on, so I'm open for questions.
Well, Jenny, thank you so much, Jenny. Feel free, please, if you have a question, go ahead.
Yeah, this is Charlie in Connecticut.
Hi.
Hi. Yeah, my question, it has to deal with the fact of my background is in health and wellness, being a natural bodybuilder, personal fitness trainer, et cetera. So what I was wondering is, I grew up with the notion that whole wheat bread and grains and things of that nature are good for you, where in the kidney diet, it's almost like the opposite. And it's really been like learning a brand new language. Now, obviously, there are good foods that you can eat with the kidney diet. I was wondering, the origin of the kidney diet, like cream cheese, and how long ago was this determined that certain foods that you can eat with the kidney diet are okay, but, other healthier foods are not okay? Where did that origin come from?
Yeah, let me tell you about that. So I totally agree with you. I all the time telling my hospital diet, my people when they come back from the hospital, well, the dietitian told me I couldn't eat whole grain bread. You can eat whole grain bread. Don't worry about that. So don't let that deter you. Just make sure that you look at your potassium levels. The whole grains have more potassium in them, and so it's an individual thing. So I really think that whole grains help your digestion. They'll help your constipation issues that you might have on dialysis. There's lots of extra nutrients in them. It's only the potassium. So if your potassium's okay, then it's not a big deal. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but there is one thing I'm curious about. How is it, and this boggles my mind, how is it that white flour is good for you on the kidney diet when, white flour in general has been, been brought out that it's not good for us?
Yeah, that's that. Yeah, it's that same thing. I think people are just being overzealous and not looking at the whole diet. You have to really kind of go by your labs. It's just person by person, and really meat products have lots of potassium and phosphorus in them, and we're pushing high protein. But I have many patients that are just vegetarian religiously, and their proteins are great, and I know that they're eating, all these whole grains and beans and things. So you kind of have to balance your protein intake versus the other. Does that make sense? I think it's just one of those misconceptions. If you actually live with folks, that do this, there's a little bit more leeway than some of the recommendations that are just written down. Does that make sense? It's individual. So.
And the thing I was going to say, too, that I've noticed is that with my labs, when my potassium, my phosphorus are well below where, it should be, everything is great, I can afford to, in essence, cheat a little bit and maybe have a little bit, maybe extra cheese if I want to, in the morning that I would normally have, still a little bit extra. So there's leeway, if your numbers are good. then you have, it's not as stringent as it's first made out to be, but you do have to follow, the things that are set to you. So
exactly. Yeah. You sound like a wonderful patient that's keeping track of their body. So that's what you have to do. You have to kind of watch what your body is doing and your lab. So congratulations, you're doing it well.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you.
So
this is the time for questions. If you do have a question, you unmute your line by pushing *6 or #6. Eric, I know you had raised your hand before. Did you have a question, or was it just in regards to SNAP and the farmers market? And those of you who are online, I did upload both the slides, the handouts, and like I mentioned, I found a list of farmers markets that do accept SNAP that you can sort by state. And I'll send all that out with the recording too. But please, this is the time for questions. Anyone else have any other questions?
Well, if no one does, then feel free to break in if you do. I recently went to the Diabetes Educators Convention in New Orleans. That's where I fell in love with Creole cooking. But they had a presenter there that was from food banks. And I was going to research this a little bit more. But the food banks, the network, like ours is called Northwest Harvest, and all those networks that are connected across the country, they have some education programs that are kind of for all of the networks together. So I thought, well, that's a really cool resource that maybe people could look into some of those. Like, for example, this lady that was doing her programs, she was actually offering a cooking class where you would cook from items, and then they would give the participants a bag of the food that they had cooked the meal with so they could take it home and cook it again. And this one lady had said that she had come to the class originally because she just really needed the free meal and really, just wanted that, and then came away a real advocate for cooking at home. And now she is part of the program, and she's helping to teach the classes. And it's, she just came from, I can't do this to I can do this. So I just thought that was fabulous. And so to look into some of your food banks and, just kind of see what they have to offer. So that's another reason.
I'm sorry. Hi, my name is Mikey Nee. How are you?
Just fine, hon. What's your question?
My question is, I know you have good labs all the time until I want to eat greens or beans. And my dietitian is very informative. She's also, she has your certificate in dietitian and dietary needs. And basically, I'll tell her, like I like Mexican, I like enchiladas and tacos. I love greens. I eat more healthy before I became a dialysis patient than I do as a dialysis patient because the food is so restrictive. And I'm a picky eater. I don't eat pork and a lot of foods I don't like. I don't like grits. I don't like Creole food. I have Indian plate brothers and sisters. I don't,
Be super careful with the portion sizes on those things.
That's what she tells me.
Yeah.
She tells me to eat a tablespoon, a serving spoon full of the greens and incorporate it with other foods.
Yep.
That's hard to do when you like just that.
It is, but you sure don't want to end up in the hospital with a high potassium. I did have a lady that she started on dialysis, and her daughter came to visit, and her daughter decided that her mom wasn't eating well, so she made her tomato salad, made her spinach salad, and I forget, she was having some fresh peaches because they were in season, and the lady ended up with a high potassium in the hospital before I ever got a chance to see her because, she came in, late one week, and she was in the hospital by the weekend. So you have to kind of work with us, when it comes to those high potassium things, because you can end up in the hospital if you if you overdo on the high potassium. So that's kind of the one really dangerous thing about the dialysis diet. But some of the other stuff, you know, we can be a little bit more flexible with. So, and it is a good idea. How do you
incorporate other foods with that? What I mean, a serving spoon full of greens or beans when you like that.
Yeah.
And how do you incorporate other foods with that?
So maybe what I might do is have a bed of rice, and I would put, you know, a tablespoon or two of greens on top of those and mix it all up together so you get that greens taste, but it's not, you know, a great big bulk of it.
I don't like greens and rice, but I'll eat greens and rice.
Okay. So something like, you know, something like that you can kind of mix things together. So
greens, and what else would you suggest? Just as a hint.
Hey, anybody got any suggestions for her? I'm trying to think what other sorts of things. Are there some other kinds of green things that aren't the dark green that you would like to mix with it?
I like kale. I like spinach. I like collards. I love broccoli. I love string beans. I love veggies, period.
How about carrots? Could you do shredded carrots and greens together?
Oh, that doesn't sound like a good taste, but I'll try that.
I need to sit with you, and we need to spend some time together. So I kind of hate to make too many particular. I'll go with your diet.
I'll email you. I'll try that and email you and let you know what happened, okay?
That'd be very sweet. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hello?
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 Hello? Go ahead. Well, thank you for letting me talk to you guys. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and thank you so much, Jenny, for giving that great presentation. Yes, I'm sorry, do you have a question?
Yeah, this is Lisa O'Kane from, I'm a patient at Mayo Clinic in Jacksonville, Florida, and they were talking about the greens, what you could put with it that wouldn't be so high. I put like smothered cabbage, because I'm down south, but like you take the cabbage and kind of julienne it, or cut it up as much as you can. I take a little bit of olive oil, some onions, and the minced garlic from Dollar Tree, believe it or not, because if you get it somewhere else, it's more expensive. It's like $1, you know, and onions are relatively inexpensive. Cabbage, I've gotten as cheap as 39 cents a pound. It's as high as 69 cents, but it's like really cheap. We can have it. It's one of our good vegetables. And you mix that with the collard greens, and there you go. It's actually a dish. It's actually a dish that I hadn't had until I moved down south.
Wonderful. I love Southern cooking. My folks are from the South, so give me everything with corn in it, right?
Just smother it down, and you only need a little bit of the greens, but you'll have the green taste. Just take a little bit of the collard greens because they are high in the potassium and everything. And with the cabbage, it's just really good.
Great suggestion. You know, it's really interesting. All across world cuisines, everybody's got a really cool cabbage recipe. I think that's just one of those things that grows, and it lasts all winter, and people get tired of it, so they start making up all these really inventive ways to eat cabbage.
I think it's the Greek one with the cabbage rolls, like with the ground beef and a little bit of rice, and you make like a little cabbage roll, and I'm going to try it, but I had it like prepared out before, but I try to use as many of, you know, like in carrots and things, I try to use as many of the good vegetables as I can.
Yeah, well, wonderful. You know what, and make sure that you share those recipes with your dietitian, because you'd be surprised how many other people might want to know that too, so that's great.
Yeah. And it was a great call. This is my first time. I didn't know quite how to get on here because I'm actually at a hospital. My brother's having heart procedure. So I'm at that hospital here in Jacksonville, and I was trying to say, how am I going to, I don't have my computer with me, but I do have my cell phone, so it was really appreciated.
Well, I hope that goes well, and at least we helped to pass some time.
Yeah.
Are there any last-minute questions or comments? Well, Jenny, thank you so much for all that great information. I know
a nice group. Thank you. And just
Yeah, no,
imagine being Angelina Jolie, okay? Just have that image and that'll make me really happy.
Right. That's what I was thinking the entire time. So I'm
Yeah,
sure
that's
all of our participants were as well.
Yeah, I look exactly like her, right? Okay. All righty, well, we'll see you later then.
Yes, thank you all for joining, and we'll see you next time. I'll send out the recording with the handouts as well for you to keep on hand and review. So thank